Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I would like to make the following statement, that we are on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. The panel today, to my left is Stuart McPherson, to my far left is Cynthia Stevens. I'm Robert Buss, the chair. Our assessor is Jason Brown, and the recording secretary is Kelsey Harrison. We will begin this morning. Pardon me. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussions to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that would be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Municipal Board, Manitoba Municipal Board, if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the other applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will be repeated for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the Board will then deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be a part of the public record. And we will begin this morning with item number 1, 1010 Logan Avenue.
Could you please state your name? And do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Do you swear in or affirm?
Swear.
Could you please state your name?
Sid Story.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Brown, when you are ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property address is 1010 Logan Avenue. Roll number is 13082742200. We would like to make a recommendation to $2.7 million. You can see on page 2 there was a sale on this property October 4th, 2017. The value just happens to be right in between both of our positions, so I feel like it's a fair recommendation.
Very good. Mr. Story, is this?
Yes, it's acceptable.
Thank you. Okay, number 2 on the docket today, 185 Stradbrook Avenue. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Roll number is 12031878400. Property address at 185 Stradbrook Avenue. The department is willing to accept Mr. Story's valuation at $2,047,000.
And that's changed from
$2,215,000.
Thank you, Mr. Story.
Yes, I accept.
I assume that that's good
Yeah.
with you?
If I may, is that a recommendation that you're making?
I mean, I'm accepting his value, so, well, you can write it down as a
We'll
recommendation.
consider it as a recommendation?
Sure.
Yeah, because otherwise we'd have to hear it again.
Okay, we will consider that as a recommendation, thank you. That takes us to 1004 Sergeant Avenue. And I see from my notes that there is a request for non-cooperation on this property.
That is correct.
Would you like to tell us about that, please?
I can, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'll just start with the roll number 13011422400. Seeking section 53.3 and section 54.3.2. We can turn right to page 2 of my evidence, request for information. We have not received information in 2016 or 17. The last return was actually in 2014. Turning to page 12, we have our registered mailer. The envelope addressed to the numbered company at the subject property at 1004 Sergeant Avenue. You can see at the top of the envelope there is a tracking number LP 578607738CA. The corresponding number is shown on the request for signature. This was not signed for, but it was delivered. We have other evidence here showing that we've mailed other things to that address and they have applied. The blank mailer on the page 13, once again with the corresponding tracking number at the top left-hand corner, ending in 738CA, and that was not returned to us. Based on that, we're asking for non-compliance. I do have some rebuttal if it's going to be contested. We'll go through that after Mr. Story.
Well, we'll see what Mr. Story has. Mr.
Well,
Story,
I'm curious, I'd like to perhaps hear the rebuttal.
Okay.
So just as I understand it, the mailer was sent but not acknowledged.
That's correct.
Receipt, and there's no second letter or anything that needs.
That was the second letter.
That was second.
Yeah, so we send the first one out regular mail. If we don't get a reply, the second one goes out registered
Okay.
mail.
well, perhaps we should, is that it, Mr. Story? You have,
Oh,
is that your side?
Mr. Brown indicated he had some rebuttal evidence, so,
Rebuttal, but he has nothing to rebut yet.
oh, okay.
I guess I'm rebutting that they did, he's mentioned that they did not sign for it. So I have some evidence
Okay.
just showing. Okay.
Okay, we'll accept the rebuttal and,
Yeah, whatever the, like, I don't know what the circumstance were in the city may have,
Okay.
shed some light on it. Thank you.
So the first item, this was a permit taken out by the owner. You can see the same numbered company, 3046681 Manitoba Limited. You can see their address at 1004 Sergeant Avenue, and in the top right-hand corner, this was taken out in 2019. So this just shows that they are using this address as a mailing address for taking out a permit. The following page, this is from 2013. This was a registered mailer. Once again, same numbered company, same address. This one was signed for on the following page. And then they did submit it upon signature. So this just proves that in the past we have sent it to this address and they have replied, and they did take a permit out using that same address. So we feel that we can prove that we did deliver it.
very good. Mr. Story, do you have any thing to say
Well,
about?
but not much proof that it was received by anybody.
All we need to do is prove that it was delivered. I think we proved that.
I'll contest it just on the basis that there's no indication that it was received by anybody.
Okay, well, the board will step out
Or
and,
we can step on
would you like to step out?
No.
Okay, you guys Okay, I'll call the hearing back to order. Panel has a question for the assessor on page 12 of your brief. There's no signature there. I'm under the impression that these are supposed to be signed, these registered letters?
The registered letters are generally signed. I believe the legislation states that we only have to show proof of delivery. Generally, the signature would confirm that, but it does say it was delivered, but it just wasn't signed for.
Any other questions too?
Well, oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, what legislation are you
I
referring to?
don't have it offhand. I know there has been other rulings stating that delivery is
Is that in the MAA?
I believe so. I'm not entirely sure. Where that is stated, but I've seen other decisions where it was referenced.
Think about the signature, or how they go about it.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but, I mean, we can prove that we did deliver it to an address that they're still using currently.
Well,
But-
yeah, if there's no one there to sign for it, does Canada Post leave the letter, or do they return it back to you? Because it looks,
Well, they would have got the first letter for sure, because it was sent to them at the same address, and that would have went in their mailbox and stayed there. The second one, I
like
believe,
these registered ones come back to you, don't they, if no one
when
signs for it?
I've gotten registered mail before, and it's just right in my mailbox, and then I have to go to the post office and pick it up if nobody's there.
But if you look at this on page 12, you follow the chronology, the last entry is the 14th of June. It starts the 7th of June when it's
Correct.
processed.
I believe it goes back to the local post office for a week, and you have a week to go down and sign it for it.
But the statement of description says signature image recorded for online viewing. Does that mean the assessment department was returned to them and they signed for it? Is that what that means?
I am unaware. This doesn't happen very often. Generally, they are signed for.
Right.
So it's your understanding that they go, you get a card in your mailbox saying there's a registered letter for you at the post office and you're supposed to go pick it up?
If
And then
you're not
if it
there to
doesn't,
sign
then you
for it.
guys get it back?
That's
You
what it
think-
appears, yeah.
Okay.
And it's your contention that you just have to prove delivery, not necessarily receipt? But-
That's correct.
But you can't point us to the legislation or a board order or anything that says.
Unfortunately, off the top of my head, I can't.
That's okay if you looked and you're not able to find it.
Yeah.
Maybe if you give us a minute, Kane, we'll have to make a second deliberation here, please.
Okay, I can see if they had changed their address or something, but, I mean, it's still an address that they're using, so. Thank you.
call the meeting back to order. And in the matter of the non-cooperation, upon reflection, the board has decided that we will not grant the non-cooperation. And therefore, Mr. Brown, if you will take us through your information, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the subject property is at 1004 Sargent Avenue, defending a 2020 assessed value of $467,000 today. This property contains one building, which is one story, built in 1951, 14-foot wall height, has a leasable area of 4,780 square feet. I have some rent comparables on page 3. First two are quadruple 1 Winnipeg Avenue at $10.53 and $10.18. Similar size, similar area. The following three range from $9.16 up to $10.17. All similar size, similar area, similar vintage. On the following page is my income workup. So we're using the leasable area of 4,780 square feet at $9.37 per square foot. We've reduced that by 6% vacancy and 2% expenses and a further $3.75 per square foot shortfall. We capitalized the NOI of $40,184 at 8.6%, which yields the final value at $467,000. This is an owner-occupied building, so of course there would be no management fee associated with this. On page 10, shows the location. It's in between Wall and Aaron Street on Sargent. Aerial view at the bottom of page 10. Rectangular building fronting onto Sargent, and then some street view pictures on page 11. And based on that, we're asking that the assessment be confirmed at $467,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Story, any questions of?
Yes, just quickly. Page 3, Mr. Brown. We have a couple of problems on the docket today. 1111 Winnipeg is on your page 3. I'm looking at the lease, and the lease on Entice Auto is $8.92 a square foot. That's the second item on. Can you tell me where you got the $10.18 a square foot?
From the mailer that was provided to us.
On Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Okay. I recall that's one that's hard to reach with anything. And the other property is at Shipham, the second one on Winnipeg, Unit 3?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have Shipham and Entice Auto.
Correct.
And if you go to page 4, these rents are model driven or actual?
That's correct.
Model driven?
Correct.
And you would classify this storage warehouse or flex warehouse?
Storage warehouse.
Storage, yeah. That's what the city classified.
Correct.
So you agree? Have you inspected the property?
I know.
It's on Sargent and Wall,
Correct.
basically?
Yeah.
Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens, questions?
I think I'm good, thank you.
McPherson?
Yeah, just clarification, please. You mentioned it's owner occupied, so there's no management fee associated. What did you mean by that?
Well, generally, professionally managed building would charge a management fee, whereas this one's owner occupied, so they would be their own building, so they wouldn't have anyone to charge to, be nobody to recoup.
Right, but if we're looking at the fee simple valuation, it would be considered to be unencumbered.
That's
So
correct.
whether it's a lease or
That's
whatever,
correct.
so there should be some sort of management fee associated with this property?
As currently operating, there would not be. And it's obviously, we've all heard the arguments, the department's stance is that management fees are generally recovered. And that's why we're no longer using them in our valuation.
Oh, so when you say management, you're referring to the 5%?
Correct.
Management that
Correct.
really isn't considered to be a property management?
Correct. Whatever, like everyone's calling it, it historically was called a management expense of 5%. Obviously, we all know that we've done away with that this cycle. We found that they've been recovered. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is, your picture on page 2, is this some office in the front? It's a printing firm, and then they have,
Correct.
they print in the back and all little office area in the front?
There's actually a few little businesses running out of here, all under the same ownership. There's DW Imaging and Renella Printing are the two that I know offhand.
And you don't have any rents for those businesses because
Because it's owner occupied, correct.
the owner, well, those are the
And
owner's
because-
businesses, and because you didn't receive,
That's correct.
that's all my questions, thank you. Mr. Story, if you'd like to take us through.
Okay, if I might, before I do that, I don't know if the board will accept this or my explanation, but if you go to page 19 of the assessor's brief, it's not really an eye test, it's a rent roll.
19 of which
19?
brief?
I'm sorry, page, well, it says 19 on your brief.
Which brief?
Oh, I got Winnipeg, picked the wrong one, sorry. Page. I'll come back to it, that's, it's to do with 111, so I think that it doesn't. Sorry, I'm fine, so I'll start my dissertation.
Okay,
Okay, so, just to start, if my young lady in the office, my assistant, she has the wrong picture on the front, that's right across the street, that's from standing in the parking lot of the subject, taking a picture across the street. It's formerly a gas station, and it's right by Sergeant Park, it's on the corner of Wall and Sergeant, so I apologize, that's not
okay.
the picture of the building, that's its neighbor. A very good picture of the building is on page 11 of the assessor's brief, and it shows the front with the lower ceiling height, and in the back is the higher ceiling height. Building was built 68 years ago, 1951. It's got 14-foot ceiling height. I'm not sure how the 14 relates, so it's, to me, to be two different ceiling heights, but the city has put 14 feet in there. Land to building ratio is reasonable at 3.37. Just take you through our brief. If you go to page 3 of our brief, we're suggesting a $7.50 market rent, and I'll support that in just a moment. We're asking for the 5% management fee. Management fee is property management. We're asking for the non-recoverable 5%. These are non-recoverable costs that no one will incur over the estimated useful life of the building. If you can't, and typically doesn't even try to recover from his tenants. That would be things like marketing, space, real estate commissions, things of that nature. We, the assessors used an 8.3% cap rate. We're suggesting 8.5%. These are non-investment grade properties. The fact that it's considered to be warehouse, storage warehouse, means, it shows the difficulty of how, where we put this, but we're very close, we're saying 8.5% based on age. Location is reasonably good. The condition seems to be reasonable from outside. I've been in the front foyer, but not in the back. So we think the 8.5 is reasonable. I'll ask you to turn the page to, there's an overview of the property. You can see it's at the corner of Wall and Sargent. And you go to page 5, and these are the rates that we use for what we consider to be flex warehouse. And by that, we just mean that they have a higher degree of finish than the storage warehouse. That would be offices, things of that nature. So we'll just go through it quickly. 1301 Keniston are the Terracon development properties, flex warehouses. 801 Centuries, flex warehouse, Bolt Supply. 2061 Logan, these are, in our opinion, these are flex warehouses. 1595 Buffalo Place was just recently redone. 2071 Logan. So we have an average of 735 and a median of 750. I would ask that the board consider the 750 rate. If you go to the next page, which is 6 of our brief, this is our industrial cap rate study. These are buildings that were chosen because they're older in nature. They're not new construction. They're older construction, as is the subject. They also suffer with access and egress based on an older technology, an older building. They were built for the most part with fairly low land to building ratios. So we use 8.5. Our detail here suggests 8.29. However, you'll see again going through them that there are no 1951 vintage properties in that particular list. I think that 8.5 is reasonable. We all know about Colliers and their numbers are investment grade for the most part. I suggest support our 8.5%. Having said all that, I would ask that the board consider an 8.5 cap, 7.50, as Mr. McPherson said, fee simple, what that type of property is garnering across the city. Based on its age, we would have probably treated it as less than 750 a square foot, except it's got a reasonable land to building ratio approaching 4:1, and it's in a reasonably good location. It's on Aaron and, wall between Aaron and Wall. So I would suggest 356 over 48. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see if the assessor has any questions.
No questions, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No questions. Mr. McPherson, questions?
I think they did have one question. Just on your cap rates, page 6, Mr. Sawyer. I noticed that 2240 Logan, it's 1968 building, which is just a little bit newer than this, but it's 47,000 square feet.
Yes.
Oh, actually, that's 10 times the size, isn't it?
Square
So-
footage is 100,000 square feet.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
square
footage,
footage
I'm looking at
47.
Logan, yes, 47.5, yeah.
Yeah, whereas the subject property is only 4,700 square feet.
Correct.
So there's really nothing here that's it's that small a building, are these standalone buildings or are these,
These are standalone buildings, yes, some are multi-tenant. What we do is we classify, we have a different classification than the city uses. We use $2.50 for unheated storage warehouses, $3.50 for heated storage, which is purely storage, nothing else. Then we move up to $5.15 for the storage warehouses built in the last 20 years, or 20 years or older. And then we go into about $6 for flex warehouse, where these older buildings, Bradford, Dudley, all through there, Dublin, have all been built out with offices. And then we go into flex warehouses, which we started about $7 a square foot. So we just have our own classifications. And this is just to give an indication of what the market appetite is for risk on this type of building. And you'll find it's interesting, we did a study, but it's not conclusive. But the majority of properties that my client, who has a number of these industrial properties, have sold over the years, have been sold to the tenants. Anchor Products bought their own building after 27 years, folks like that. On these older buildings, that seems to be what happens. So cap rate gets affected by that as well.
and it's your contention that 8.5% is the appropriate cap rate for this
I
property?
believe so, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and your comparables, would they be properties like the subject that has office space in the front? And,
Well, that's why we consider them flex warehouses. And flex warehouses command a little more money because they have a higher degree of finish. And the city at one time, maybe still does, used to identify flex as plus 20%. If 20% or more of the property is finished, has a degree of finish. We've got a situation, we talked about one comp on 1111 Winnipeg, which is Mr. Shipman's, a distribution. But it's really closer to a suburban office. It's been completely finished. There's no warehousing going on there. But they're classified as storage warehouses.
So the answer is yes, these would have
Yes,
some office
absolutely.
space.
Just all of the comps would have office space and a higher degree of finish. I'm going to suggest over 20 or 25%.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question. So you're conferring that you were considering this to be a flex warehouse?
Yes, we
Okay.
consider it to be flex.
And do you have any ages on your comps? Like, are any of these comps about this, on your rental comps the same?
Well, the ages are, there's two sheets of comps. On the flex, I don't think we put the age in.
No,
No.
that's
But
what
we
I,
did
that's
on
what I was
the,
wondering.
on the storage.
But are any of these the same?
I know the building, so I can tell you very quickly. They're all buildings we represent. So the first group, 1301 Kenniston, that started about 2000, well, at least it started in 2007. So that's been a relatively new, that's a
It's
terracon,
relatively new
nice
building,
property
okay.
across from the new Mercedes dealership, et cetera. So they're vintage 207, according to this. 801 Century is relatively new. It was built, I'm going to say, 10 years ago. That's a flex warehouse right on Century in Wellington. 2061 Logan and 2071 Logan are about the same vintage, and they're over 25 years old, I would suggest. And then Buffalo Place is a beautiful building right on the corner of Waverly and Buffalo Place. But the ceiling was too low, so they tore half of it down and they rebuilt it. So it's like a new build as of 2016. And that one is very much a flex warehouse, rather nice office space for rental, liquor and lotteries. So they're newer buildings in the subject. The subject's 51, so they're all considerably new.
Newer, okay. Okay, that's all I have, thanks.
Thanks, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Summation, would you like a chance to say something?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No,
Sorry.
thank you.
Okay, that concludes 1004 Sergeant. We move on to the next item, 55 Myrtle Street. I'm sorry, I skipped one. We will move on to 1111 Winnipeg Avenue. Yes.
Okay.
Had the list upside down. Yes. 1111 Winnipeg Avenue, Mr. Brown, when you're
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
ready, please.
Roll number is 13096051600. Property is located at 1111 Winnipeg Avenue. I'd like to make a recommendation at $1.9 million based on a revised NOI and capped at 8.2%.
Okay, so you're suggesting, recommending that it be lowered from $2,094,000
Correct.
to $1,900,000.
Correct.
Mr. Story, is that
Yes, that's fine, thank you.
you too? Very good, thank you. Now we will move on to 55 Myrtle Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Roll number is 13062126000. Address 55 Myrtle Street. I'd like to make a recommendation at $830,000, down from $917,000.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Story, is that,
It's too easy for the board, yes, I'm fine, thank you.
okay? 1095 Winnipeg Avenue. Yes. And this one has a non-cooperation request. So, Mr. Brown, if you would like to explain that to us, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So roll number is 13062150200, located at 1095 Winnipeg Avenue. This is Winnipeg Harvest. Page 2 shows our request for income information. We did not receive 2016 or 17. In fact, we have not received a return since 2011. I will note that they did submit 2018, but that is post-reference for this hearing. We can go right to page 12 of my evidence. Here we can see the envelope at the top of the page, tracking number LP 578649242CA. Below that is the signature with the same tracking number at the top. Signed for in this case, and the following pages once again with the same tracking number at the top left-hand corner. These are the blank income expense statements that we sent out, and we did not receive a response.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Story, have you any
May I ask you a question?
comment? Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Brown, any idea who Kay Marushak is?
I actually Googled that name and found a LinkedIn profile. It is Kim Marushak, and she was the office manager of Winnipeg Harvest from August 1998 to present, which is 21 years at the time.
So she's not a volunteer, she's paid?
That I do not know.
Okay, because they introduced...
It's showing it as her job, so I would assume it's
And
paid.
you're showing her as office manager?
Office manager,
Yeah,
that's
she was
correct.
introduced to me as administrative assistant, I guess that's the same thing. But with someone certain, thank you, I just had that one question. Was there any other attempt other than there's two properties that we delivered at the same time?
That's correct. So the first mailer goes out, and that one is due in May.
Yeah,
If we do not receive a reply, the second mailer goes out in June.
yeah,
And with the registered mail, which was signed for, so there was 2 attempts.
Okay.
And once again, they have not complied since 2011. They did start to comply in
And
2018.
they haven't appealed their assessment since 2011 as well, is that correct?
I did not see any history of appeal
Yeah.
on these 2 properties.
Yeah.
Questions from the panel?
Okay.
Cynthia? Any questions?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Just one, when you look in the tracking details on page 12,
Yep.
once again, it goes chronologically, and here it says signature image recorded for online viewing, and I see a signature here. Whereas in the past one, we also saw that, no signature.
Correct.
Any idea?
Unfortunately, I'm not too familiar with how Canada Post operates
Okay.
on this, so.
That's fine, I just wondered if you. Thank you.
Can
So
I
you-
ask Mr. McPherson, I didn't understand your question. You're saying that
Yeah, if you look,
this is Miss Maraschuk's signature purportedly?
right,
Okay.
and I'm assuming that's the second last entry signature.
Yes, right. okay.
Recorded for online viewing.
Yeah,
And the reason I'm questioning it, because the last one,
yeah.
where there was no signature, also said signature image recorded for online viewing. So I
But
just,
it also said on the other one that it could
no,
not
I
be-
understand,
could not
but
be
I'm
used.
just,
Yeah.
just asking,
No, I think you're helping our position. I appreciate it. I just want to make sure I understand.
Okay, I have a question. You said they sent in 2018, but you're not able to use that because it's post-reference?
Correct. So for next cycle, if they send in the 19 as well, they will be compliant.
Okay, thank you. If
May
you'll,
we ask, when did they send that one in?
I did not look, it wasn't relevant to this hearing,
Okay.
so, but I did see that we received an 18. I don't know if it was late or on time.
Okay, so there's been no history of non-compliance, obviously.
We hadn't received a statement since 2011,
Yeah.
and I believe they did.
And you're aware it's owner occupied, they own the building?
Of course.
okay, if you will,
maybe?
like to go out, we will, you can wait here, we will step out. We'll call the meeting back to order.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Story, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to, I should have added it to our dissertation before we broke. Winnipeg Harvest is celebrating 35 years. They feed 64,000 people a month, 768,000 a year. It is 3 weeks before Christmas. This is an organization that we desperately need and I believe is underappreciated. And I'm going to ask the board to consider if you have any flexibility to waive the penalty based on the organization. This is Winnipeg Harvest.
Yes, we understand that.
It's
We
primarily
understand.
volunteer-driven. It processed out of one of these 2 buildings 11,300,000 pounds of food and distributed over 400 food banks and soup kitchens in 2018. The last people in this room we should be penalizing if we don't have to is Winnipeg Harvest. So I respectfully request the board consider that. If
Thank
you
you.
have any
Yes.
flexibility, I understand your constraints, but if there's any flexibility, these people certainly was not done out of, for any devious reason. They're too busy packing groceries for people.
I appreciate your position, the board
Thank you.
appreciates your position.
Thank you.
Thank you. But unfortunately, we will grant the non-cooperation that is requested by the assessor. So therefore, Mr. Story, if you will
Okay.
lead us through your information,
Yes,
please.
thank you. Others too, we're doing 94 first?
1095.
95 first.
The assessor has read the roll number and
Yeah.
address into the
Yeah.
roll already.
Yes, just, if we're familiar with the building, it's just on Winnipeg Avenue, just in the area of McPhillips. First thing jumps out when the assessor was presenting his evidence is land to building ratio of 1.53, which for the flex warehouse or storage warehouse is generally considered inadequate for access egress. It has a good ceiling height of 19 for what they do, their grocery redistribution basically. If you go to our page 3, pretty well the same argument, 750 we believe for this vintage. It was, this was built in 1965, so you're 54 years old. Again, because of that, although it's very well maintained, both buildings are well maintained, they're still dated, they're still older. So we would ask that the 750, just as we discussed in the previous file, as flex warehouse, I'll refer you to that document in just a minute. And an 8.3 is what the city has suggested for cap rate, and we will agree to that. So the only thing that comes into play is what is the fee simple market for a warehouse with limited access and egress because of land to building ratio that was built several decades ago. And I refer to our page 8, and again, the average and the median is 750, and I think that these properties are close in nature to the subject, and I would suggest a 7.5 is reasonable. And on that basis, I would ask the board to consider using 750, 6% retail vacancy, industrial vacancy, and 8.3, 1,243,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Brown, any questions of the applicant?
No questions, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Cynthia, Ms. Stevens?
So you're using the same comps here,
Yes.
and they're all flex warehouses, you said before. Now, are you considering this to be that as well?
Yes.
So how much office space do they have in here?
I can tell you that I can't say exactly, I'm going to suggest probably 30% or more. There's, Mr. Brown was in the building, it's the second floor, and mezzanine, he can maybe fill you in there. It's in excess of 25%. I believe.
Okay. And you've got your 5% in there, okay?
Yes, we asked for 5%.
Okay, that's all I had, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McPherson?
Just a little clarification on your cap rate.
Yes,
You're using the same comparables as you did previously.
correct.
This property is roughly the same size,
Mm-hmm.
and you're using an 8.3, that's the determination you come to, whereas
Yeah, we
last
use-
time you said 8.5.
We usually, what happened is, the city was at 8.3, we thought 8.5 for 2%, 2%, we did not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions. Perhaps Ms. Esser could take us through your
Yes.
information?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just quickly, this is one building, one story, situated on this roll number. It is connected to the next property, both owned by Winnipeg Harvest, and it's used as one entity. However, it's split onto 2 roll numbers. So just quickly, I'll note that the actual year built was 1965, but you'll see we have an effective year built of 1995. That is due to, they had a massive renovation in 2010 for both properties. The renovation consisted of $3 million in new construction and $1.5 million of renovation, totaling $4,650,000. So that's for both properties, and that's why the effective age was set to 1995. As Mr. Story stated, there is a 19-foot wall height, and the leasable area is just over 16,000 square feet. There are some rent comparables on page 3, ranging from $8.84 all the way up to $14.15. All similar sizes, similar locations, and similar, well, the effective years built range from 1951 to 2008. So we can see the effect in some cases of what the age will do to the rent. On page 4, I'm showing my income workup. We're using $8.60 for this property, generating a gross potential revenue of $140,137. Reduce that by 6% vacancy, 2% expenses, and shortfall at $3.75, and capped at 8.3, which yields a value of $1,511,000. On page 10, shows the location. So near the corner of Keewatin and, or Notre Dame and McPhillips, sorry, off of Winnipeg Avenue. Aerial photograph on page, at bottom of page 10. So this, the next property we're going to see is just to the right of this property. They are connected. Some street photographs on page 11. Bottom picture shows 2 overhead doors, one on the left-hand side, one on the front. They do own the lots to the rear of this too. Show on page 10, there's 2 empty lots at the rear that they use for storage and parking. And I believe they can access the back of the building from those lots as well. So based on that, we ask that the assessment be confirmed at $1,511,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Story, any questions?
Mr. Brown, were you in the building, this building?
I have not been. It was inspected after that renovation in 2010. I spoke to the person who went in there. They said it was brought up to a pretty nice level.
So is there anything in your field notes that indicate that it would be 20 or 25 or more finished space?
I don't have the notes with me.
Okay.
There are some pictures on the next property of some interior photographs. And the renovation of $4.6 million.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. First, any questions?
Just a couple. Page 10, your overhead.
Yeah.
You said the lots to the rear,
Yeah, on the
That's
north side of the
under
building.
45,935.
Correct, and the one adjacent to that on the left-hand side.
Okay, so these are owned by the same
Correct.
entity.
So
The building that we're dealing with next, I'm assuming it's one economic unit is what I'm assuming.
technically, yes.
There's no thought to merge these properties?
There's never been a request for it. I haven't looked into it, but it definitely seems like it would be a good idea.
Yeah, especially when I see a land to plan of 1.5.
Which,
If you would bring the vacant lots in that we're
Correct.
using, that might bring it more to an industrial norm of 3 or 4 to 1.
most likely, yes, they're pretty big lots, so.
So that's something that the owner may consider requesting, is that what you're saying? Like the department wouldn't take the initiative to do that?
We
It would have to be a-
can,
But it would have to be a request by the owner, otherwise?
yeah.
Okay, I thank you.
Thank you.
Cynthia?
Just on page 4 on your workup, this is model driven, they rent.
Correct.
Yeah, so this effective age is newer than than one of the previous properties we saw that we actually heard. So I'm assuming that this rent, the model might be dropping this rent lower than the previous because of the size, or that, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
due to economies of scale,
Yeah,
generally,
yeah,
the smaller.
okay, yep. Okay, that was my question, thank you.
Thank you. So you said you talked to the assessor who had inspected it. It's assumed that both buildings were renovated? They didn't
Yes.
spend all the money on one building?
That's correct. Yeah, they, I don't know the degree of which one had more. The new construction was mostly on the next property, but the renovation, I'm not entirely sure, but I would assume.
Okay,
I
thank
do have one more question, if I may, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
go ahead.
effective age of 1995, that has a bearing on the cap rate?
Yes.
Is, I'm assuming other major factors are location and size of the building? Those are the primary three
Mostly,
factors?
yes, yeah.
So is there a breaking point in the age where the cap rate would change?
Unfortunately, I don't have that document in front of me, but yeah, I don't know where the line is on that breaking point, but.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any summation from either party?
Just go ahead.
Sorry, I think it's the same roll number as 1004.
We got compared to Zoom. Boy, I'm hammering this morning. Sorry, this. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Story, if you'd like to take us through your,
Fine.
yes. Yes, we've heard from you.
1095 right now.
Any
95, yeah.
Summation.
summation from either party?
I just want to make a point, if I can. The big issue with this building, of course, is a land-to-building ratio of 1.5. And when you look at Mr. Brown's overview, you'll see a variety of long, skinny pieces. There's about 3 different abandoned spur lines in there, that are in and around that area. The owner of, who we just discussed, the previous file on 1111 Winnipeg and 55 Myrtle, is trying to buy the spur line behind Winnipeg and donate it or allow the use of it for the
I think this is the new information that you're giving us, Mr. Story.
summation. It's just the big, we're talking about cap rate and then why the cap rate is where it is, and I'm suggesting it's because land to building ratio is 1.5 to 1, which is not appropriate for a warehouse of any kind.
Okay,
That's all, just summation.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm good, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, then we will continue on to 1085 Winnipeg Avenue, item number 7 on the docket. And this as well is a non-cooperation request.
That's correct, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Perhaps you could give us your,
So obviously, the same arguments as the preceding property, same owner. Last time we received a return was 2011. Subsequently, we did receive the 2018. On page 16 of my evidence, once again, we have the envelope. All the tracking numbers match, ending in 239 CA. This was sent to 1085 Winnipeg Avenue, which is the mailing address. Once again, signed for by the same office manager. And once again, the blank mailer, which was not delivered to us. Based on that, we're asking for the non-compliance to be granted. Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Story?
Yes, just carry forward the same request. If the board has any flexibility, it's almost Christmas. They're doing wonderful work. They made a mistake. I don't think they should be penalized. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the panel members on? Okay, we'll take a short,
Honestly,
Want us to step up?
Their turn again.
Okay.
call the meeting back to order, and the board will grant the non-cooperation request of the assessor. So Mr. Story, if you would like to begin by taking us through your information, please.
Yes, I will, thank you. Again, this is the Winnipeg Harvest Building. You'll see some, actually, Mr. Brown has some very good photographs that show some areas they use for fundraising, a kitchen, or a dining room, things of that nature in his brief, and you get a feel for why we're considering it to be a flex warehouse. This one has a lesser land to building ratio, 1.29, which is very, very rare for a warehouse, distribution warehouse or otherwise. So 1.2 is really what affects the cap rate and market rents, everything I would suggest. But ceiling heights are 13 to 16. Based on the nature of their business, those are appropriate ceiling heights. If you go to our brief, you'll see the pictures. It's been refurbished in the last number of years. That's very nice. We're using a $750 fee simple flex warehouse rate, supported by some comps that we've already talked about. I'll just ask you to refer to them again. We're asking for the 5% non-recoverables to be deducted. We're using an 8.5 cap rate purely based on the land to building ratio. The building looks like it's well maintained. It is. It was built initially in 1976, but it's been updated. They show 1976 to 211. So it seems like 211. Last time they found an appeal was when the building was done. So the cap rate, I'm suggesting the 8.5 simply based on the land to building ratio and the fact that the building is very close to a build to suit. The building prior to this is really grocery, excess surplus groceries come in, they're repackaged, they come in one door and out the other. These buildings were renovated specifically for this use and may not be appropriate for other uses. And that's what gives rise to the 8.5 cap rate. And with that, I would suggest again, 7.5 market rent, 6% vacancy, and 8.5 in the $2,707,123. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, any questions in the applicant?
No questions, thank you, sure.
Mr. McPherson, any questions of the applicant?
I have no questions, thank you.
Stevens, any questions?
When you're talking about the land to plan ratio,
Yeah.
so you had mentioned earlier, so there's an old spur line behind,
Yes.
immediately behind the buildings?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no access from those parking lots?
To the spur line?
Well, so the spur line, like you can't drive from those parking lots to that building, you could walk across, obviously, the spur line.
No, you can, I believe, you can go into the building and between the, maybe Mr. Brown, I was there not long ago, I didn't pay attention. You can go to where the spur line is. They use that for, Myrtle and Winnipeg use that for parking. They allow for parking, right? And they're trying to buy it if
But
they buy it.
there's no vehicle access between that parking lot. I'm asking if there's
Is
vehicle
that
access
parking
between.
being their parking lot?
Yeah, and their buildings.
I'm not
The
sure.
spur line is
Yeah,
it's
not-
running
I
right
don't think
behind
it's-
the building, is
That's correct,
okay,
yeah.
all right.
And I think the spur line is probably there for the other building, but I'm not sure. Because it goes right behind Winnipeg.
So I do have a follow-up. if
Yeah,
I may.
okay, that's all I had, so go ahead.
Go ahead.
Are the tracks still there on the spur?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't.
So it's not an operational spur?
Oh, no. It's been
So the
abandoned
tracks
spur line for
may have
years
been-
and years, yeah.
So they may have been removed?
Yeah, and Mr. Carr, who owns the buildings up front, he talked about buying it and letting them use it, but they can't come to terms. He bought some spur lines before at $4 a square foot, and they want 20 or something, so they haven't negotiated. But I think that they use some of I don't think I was towing the cars from the spur line, I guess is what you're saying.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have no questions. Mr. Brown, if you would like to take us through your
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
information.
So I'm defending a 2020 assessed value at $3,987,000 today. This property consists of, we've got it as 3 buildings, 2 premises, ranging from 1 to 2 stories. You'll see the actual years built is 1976 and 2011. That is due to the $3.1 million in new construction in 2010. Using similar effective ages from 78 to 11. Wall heights ranging from 13 to 16 feet. Page 3, some rental comparables. Wide range in sizes here from 11,500 all the way up to just under 50,000 square feet. Subject is at 36,343. You'll see the rents ranging from $9.95 down to $8.16. Effective years built ranging from 1951 all the way up to 2014. And all located relatively in the same area. On page 2 of the evidence, we have the 2 premises, 25,449 square feet at $8.99, and 10,894 at $8.02. This generates a gross potential income of $316,157, reduced by 6% vacancy, 2% expenses, $3.75 shortfall, and capitalized at 7.1%. Page 10 shows the location, obviously the same as the preceding property, corner of Notre Dame and Phillips off of Winnipeg Avenue. I will note on page 10, this shows the area, the bottom picture on page 10, aerial photograph of the subject. I'll note that the parcel's boundary lines go right up to the boundary line of the parking lot. So I'm not sure where that spur line is or was, but it appears that they do own all the property backing right onto those parking lots that they own. It looks like it's been landscaped back there a bit. There's some sidewalk and what appears to be grass. It looks like they're using the back parking lot for some gardening and parking. Page 11 shows some exterior shots. So the top page is the offices. Or the top picture, the bottom picture, it shows the garage where they can load and unload. 6 doors in the parking garage. Some interior shots on page 12. First an aerial photograph, then interior shots. Interior shots continuing on pages 13, 14, and 15. So varying degrees of finish here. It looks like they used some plywood sheeting for the walls, obviously just probably for wear and tear. Dining room at the top of page 14. So obviously this is a purpose-built building, but it shows that it's in pretty good shape, and considering the $4.6 million new construction and renovation and 2010, we feel that the assessed value of $3,987,000 is fair and it should be maintained. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Story,
Just
any
a quick-
questions?
A quick question, Mr. Brown. On your effective year built on page 1 of your brief,
Yep.
you show 1978 to 2011, correct?
Yep.
You indicated there's some enhancement or rework that you
There was new
So
construction.
when you go to your next page, rent comparables,
Yep.
you'll see that the first and last, and that one's 1957, is 875 King Edward, and the last one is 1975. What would you consider what do you consider the effective year built when it ranges from 1976 to 2011?
Well, we have two premises. The new construction would be the 2011, and the existing garage was kept at 1978.
Right, but what I'm saying is that the other properties here are all built in, other than the first and last, they're built in 215, 205, 211, 211, 214, 2000. So the majority of them, the bulk of them, are in the 2000s, but we don't know what the effective year, because this is a range, right?
So turning to page 4, there's two premises, one at 25,000, one at 10,000.
Yeah.
The 25,000 would be the 2011, and the 10,000 would be the 1970.
Okay, so if you were trying to compare the rent comparables, for example, 944 Henry Avenue is a 215, what would the subject be? What would the corresponding number be for the subject?
So can you repeat the question?
Okay, if you look at page 1 of your brief,
Yep,
they use a range for the effective year.
correct.
We don't often see that, we generally see an effective year.
Yeah.
There's a range, so the range is 1978 to 2011. In your opinion, with your experience, what is the effective, what would they put down as the effective year built if you're suggesting that these 215 construction are comparable?
Well, considering the amount of the renovation and new construction in 2010, I would peg it closer to the 2011.
So you're suggesting that the effective date would be probably close to 2011, right?
Yep.
I think that's all, thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, just one follow-up. You were in this building, I take it, because you have very nice photographs?
I was not. I took those off the website.
Okay. But based on what you can see with the banquet room, which is a fundraising room where lunches and things for money, it's not a typical storage warehouse.
No. I believe we have it as a flex.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we have a storage.
You have storage, so that's part of the challenge for the property owners, because this is clearly flex. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens?
So the cap rate, I know it's modeled, so I'm assuming, with the varying ages of the building, I guess, any idea where that might fall in with the cap in terms of the age?
Well, the last one we had at 1995, effective age, and we were using 8.3, I believe. This one, 2011, so hence why the cap rate is lower at 7.1.
Would the cap be based on the 2011 and not the 1978, or, yeah, okay. That's all I had, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. McPherson?
That's all I was wondering about, because you cleared up the two premises, and there's no economy of scale there because of the varying ages of the improvements. But the overall cap rate, it's your contention that that's based more on the 2011, you said that's a closer effective age?
Right. They did build a new portion of the property in 2010, and then they renovated the existing portion, hence why 2011 would be appropriate.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. The picture on the bottom of page 11 of your brief,
Yep.
whereabouts is that? Say if we go back and look at page 10, where would
So
this-
moving, say from right to left, the top building, or the top picture is the extreme right of the property, followed by the parking garage to the left of that, and then followed by the previous property at 1095. So if we look at my aerial photograph on page 10,
Yes?
on the right-hand side, with the taller roof, you can see the top picture. This building is on the right. The lower roof line with the mechanical on it is the parking garage. And then the one to the left of that with the 23 on it would be the preceding property.
With the 23.
Yeah, that was 1095 Winnipeg.
Yeah, so these 6 doors, again, they're on the 25?
Yes, on the left-hand side. You can see there's a little walkway on the bottom of page 11. There's a walkway between the two buildings, joining them.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and this is at the north end of the building or the south end of the building?
The top picture is the south end. The middle picture is in the middle of the 3 properties of the north side.
But the bottom picture with the 6 doors, is, where is that? Is that the
So
bottom?
you can see the walkway at the bottom of that picture. That's joining, so right here, this walkway
Yes?
is joining this building to this building. So if you move this picture down, it would be right here.
I think you're asking, is it at the rear of the building?
You understand?
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these are both the front. So this picture, if it came down, would be like this.
So the garage comes off of Winnipeg.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Story had alluded to the fact that cap rate should change because of the low building land to building ratio. Is that, would you agree with that? or-
I do not. They do own the parking lots to the rear, which they use for gardening and parking. You can see that on page 10. There's 2 lots there. You can see it on the previous evidence as well. So I feel that because they own all of that, the land to building ratio would change.
Can I follow up on that then?
Yes, go right ahead.
So are there assessments on those other 2 properties?
There are,
So they're not part of this economic unit as it stands?
no, they haven't been deducted.
So the 1.5 or 1.2 is still actually effective for this?
Correct, but not as they're using it, but on the roll, yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, are those properties under appeal, do you know?
I do not know. Mr. Story, do you have those parking lots?
No, they're not.
Here? No?
They're not, are you talking about the area that's used for gardening?
The 2 parking lots here and here,
Yeah.
that Matt Winnipeg, our Harvest owns as well.
Yeah, no, they're not under appeal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. That concludes 1085 Winnipeg Avenue, summation, overall summation by the assessor. Mr. Story, anything you'd
No, I
like to?
think that we can't, we're here to determine what a property would sell for, and to suggest that a storage warehouse or flex warehouse with virtually no land to building ratio would sell seems inconceivable, and I don't think it does materially affect the cap rate.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you both for coming. That concludes the hearing.